Hey guys, welcome back to Real Housewives Recaps. Today, we're talking Meghan and Harry, the real story, Lady Colin Campbell. You guys, we're picking up chapter 7. We're continuing on about page 187, and this is juicy. Can I just point out that Lady Colin Campbell is a genius? She put this book out, 2020? And one of the first sentences I came to in this paragraph is discussing their, quote, ever increasing demand for privacy. We want privacy. We want privacy. She's genius. She called it before we all saw it. Even saying the word privacy gets that song stuck in my head. Come on, come on. I'm not going to sing. Guys, thanks so much for being here. I can't wait to dive into this book. I have to put in a plug for my Patreon, patreon.com/Real Housewives Recaps. That's where you can become my executive producers, which I will be thanking later in the show. But also, guys, I have a new tier. If you are interested in helping me host an upcoming episode, there is a way to do that on patreon.com/Real Housewives Recaps. Check that out. I will be thanking you, executive producers, and I'm excited to be here. Let's jump into this show. So this is the Disappointed Duchess edition, and no, I don't believe they should have their titles. I just used them to make fun of these two. But be sure to take a look at the pictures in the background because I had fun putting this one together. Okay, so going back to the we want privacy. See, you can't stop doing that. I can't stop doing that. Anyway, so Lady C goes into, well, who are they protecting themselves from? What purpose? Case in point was Eugenie and Jack Brookbank's wedding. I never said Brooks Bank wedding. Apparently, okay. I had heard, not Lady C talking about, I had heard that they had a huge row at this wedding. Things did not go well. Now, my whole thing on this wedding that really irks me is this is the one where they went around telling everybody they were pregnant. She showed off her, if you want to call it a moon bump, whatever. She showed off that thing in her dress and really made it all about themselves. It was really obnoxious. You just don't do that at a wedding. Anybody with any kind of class or whatever dignity knows this, but nope, not Meghan and Harry. But according to Lady C, they saw this as the perfect way to steal Eugenie's thunder, and they wanted to drive home the point that they were a unit beyond the reach of everyone else. They spent the whole time going from person to person, sharing the news that they were pregnant. Can you believe this? I don't even know why I'm surprised anymore. You have to think, what's the worst thing you could do in a situation and assume that's what they're going to do. But Lady C points out again just how the rules don't apply to them because they went around getting really upset when people would ask where they went on their honeymoon and how it had gone. They would reply, quote, "We're not telling anyone. We're keeping that for ourselves." Bullshit. They ended up telling us on that stupid Netflix documentary, so I guess not anymore when you have something you have to sell. So Lady C goes on to point out that when they refused to say where they had spent their honeymoon, it was in a private island north of the Seychelles, in case anybody's wondering. Ooh, I blew their secret. Who cares? So self-important. Of course they would think that was a huge fucking deal to reveal. Anyway, Lady C says when asked, she would be so smug, talking about Meghan, would be so smug about not telling people, quote, like a 12-year-old in the schoolyard, scoring points over everyone else by keeping secrets from them. So one thing I will explain about this book, in case you haven't read it and you're just listening along, totally fine, totally get it. It is a very good book. One thing that I was warned about that I will warn you about is Lady C does go out of her way to try to help Meghan. And what I mean is, she can't stand her either, but she tries to give her the benefit of the doubt at every turn. So even in this part, when she's talking about this horrendous behavior of both Meghan and Harry here, acting like this when, people around them were asking these questions, Lady C writes, the first year of marriage is customarily viewed as a period of adjustment. Everyone erroneously marked down the increasing signs of alienation to something it was not, trying to give her the benefit of the doubt. She did the same thing with the curtsy. I know, I read all the comments. Some people say she curtsied, some people say she didn't. Lady C said she did not. I've watched the videos. I don't see the curtsy. You can make up your own mind about that. We can still be friends. It's totally fine. But I'm telling you, Lady C is convinced she did not curtsy. And so she even, with that, what's the word? With that faux pas, if you will, she tried to make it sound like maybe it was an innocent mistake. Maybe it wasn't what it probably was, which was blatant disregard and disrespect. You want to know why else I don't believe she curtsied? Yeah, I'm going on a tangent. Go with me here. Because they lie about everything. And because it seems to me that everything that doesn't happen, they make a big, extraordinary deal out of lying about, saying it did happen. You name it, they've done it. Look at this bullshit curtsy right here. We have had some heated discussions over on Patreon about this moment right here. I mean, we're all on the same page. We just can't stand Meghan. But I'm saying, and so because she made such a big deal out of meeting the Queen and doing this bullshit curtsy that she did here that we all, are disgusted by, that makes me feel like she's making a big deal out of it after the fact because it didn't happen at her wedding. And maybe I'm wrong. It's happened before. It'll happen again. You can be annoyed at me like Meghan's annoyed in this picture and every picture. But we can still be friends. We can still have a common enemy, right? Okay. The 15th of October, which was 3 days after the wedding, a few days before Dumb and Dumber were set to fly out. Remember, they were going to do that tour of Australia, New Zealand, Fiji, Tonga. That's when they made the announcement that they were expecting a baby spring of 2019. Okay, this is where stuff gets wild. I talked about this in depth. Even, remember, Courtiers, the book, what was it, Forward, just bounces out of the gate with stories of how horrible these two were on this tour. Now, Lady C explains that this announcement and this time, Harry and Meghan, they landed in Australia with mass adulation. People were really excited for them and happy, and I mean, just all of it. So there started to be red flags. Lady C talks about in Fiji, where Meghan gave a speech to youngsters, supposed to be inspiring them to educate themselves, and she used that occasion to take swipes at her father. So this is where Lady C goes into all the bullshit she's put her, not all of it, but some of the bullshit she's put her father and Samantha and everybody else through. So there she is claiming she took care of herself and paid for it herself, whereas her father was giving interviews saying that he had paid for the education. She disliked the implication that she was an ungrateful daughter who should be mending fences with him. So she took that opportunity to say, no, she did it herself. I mean, just a total awful thing to do. I'm gonna go out on a limb here and say, obviously, I don't believe her. I believe that her father paid for it. So blanket statement, know that I am not Team Meghan. But let's just say that's true, that she paid for herself. Is that the time to be talking about yourself when you're talking to a group of girls? I mean, maybe like small examples, but I'm just saying leave it to Meghan to make everything about herself or whatever fictitious narrative of herself she's spinning at the time. And since we're on the topic of no self-awareness, let me show you this. I know I've talked about this a lot because it really gets me. So again, it's been discussed. I've heard 12,500, but now people are saying it's even more than that. Whatever ridiculous amount of money she spent on this outfit is. This is the outfit she wore to go to the homeless pregnant shelter, right? Just total tone deaf, lack of awareness, disgusting, right? But then somebody so brilliant pointed this out. Lady Diana, in my comments, you are brilliant. She pointed out, I didn't even think about this. She met the royals barefoot in ripped jeans, right? But goes to a homeless shelter dripping in jewels and designer clothes, right? Oh my God, that is so brilliant. Lady Diana, I applaud you. I wish I had thought of it. I did not. You're a genius. But exactly. First of all, I just don't believe a word out of this chick's mouth about Meghan. And let's say it's true. I mean, you're bragging about You're trying to make yourself sound down to earth by saying, I met my future, brother and sister-in-law in ripped jeans and barefoot cooking a meal of chicken, even though I'm vegetarian or vegan or whatever it is that she claimed to be, But claiming to do that, but then shows up for her stage paparazzi picture in this insane outfit, which, by the way, I said it before, I could go to Target, spend less than $100, and I promise you I could look better than this. I just don't understand why so much money to look so stupid all the time. It blows my mind a little bit. But Lady Diana, I applaud you. Thank you for this comment. You're a genius. Okay, Lady C points out that at the time she's giving this speech, it was not generally known, but that her father had the bills to prove that he paid her way through college. All he would need to do, and as he would ultimately do when she embarked upon her lawsuit against the Mail on Sunday, was give the newspaper sight of them. So that would prove that Meghan's struggles were with herself, not the things that she's making up externally. And by Meghan staying silent at that time, she may have thought she was coming across as, quote, quiet dignitary to her admirers, but to her critics, it was affirmation of her callousness and her haughty indifference. Okay, so then from there, Lady C goes into, I'm on page 192 if you're following along, the way that, I'm just going to read this to you because I can never speak as lovely as Lady C. Ready? The one unexcusable in the upper regions of society has always been treating his staff in an untoward way. No matter how charming you are to your equals, no matter how apparently philanthropic with good causes, if you get a reputation for treating employees unacceptably, it's akin to a man being known as an abuser. You can be as rude as you want to your friends, your family, or your social equals. If you want to mistreat them and they are dumb or weak enough to let you get away with it, well, that's between you and them. They're your social equals, and therefore they're in a position to defend themselves. However, staff are not your social equals. They are therefore at a disadvantage from the word go. Treating them indecorously breaches every code, and as that matters greatly to people who regard nobility as commendable aim in life, once you acquire a reputation for mistreating those who work for you, you lose a lot of respect and are viewed with suspicion. So according to Lady C, it had been one thing for Meghan to get that reputation for being unfriendly toward Harry's friends and family, but now it was becoming quite another as word began to spread that she was awful toward the people who were there, working for them. Lady C goes on to say what many of us have pointed out, which is most people prefer to give someone the benefit of the doubt. But when the doubts reverberate symphonically, the sound carries. So as we've been saying, where there's smoke, there's fire. This many reports of people saying almost the same thing, it carries some weight to it, right? Then, I love the juicy details. Lady C gives them to us. You ready? She goes into a specific incident, which is meant to have taken place shortly after they got married. And it'll make sense why I put this picture here, so I hope you enjoy it. Here we go. Meghan, who is well known to be something of a perfectionist, was accused of hurling onto the floor a dress that had not been ironed to her exacting standards. She is claimed to have said, quote, "You call this pressed? This hasn't been pressed. I want this pressed properly now." Okay, so there's that. Just think about that as you look at these beautiful pictures, right? She looks like she's a clothes perfectionist. No, I'm laughing not at what she did. She's a horrible person if this is true. But I'm saying I find it hilarious that the idea that she could be freaking out behind the scenes because something isn't pressed to perfection, because she sure as shit doesn't seem to care about how she looks when she walks out of the house. Case in point, look at the screen. So then Lady C goes on to, again, that tour that we were just talking about. It was Australia and New Zealand, everywhere else. Okay. We've heard this story. Let me just tell it to you from Lady C's point of view. Quote, "This time Meghan was on tour. She lost her temper and threw a hot beverage in the direction of someone who had annoyed her." So we kind of talked about this in courtiers. It was brought up as well as revenge, actually. But this part I did not realize. Ready? Quote, page 193 if you're trying to find this story. Okay. This had resulted in the member of staff resigning and being paid £250,000 to leave without disclosing the incident. I'm going to need that person to come on ahead and spill the tea. Sorry, I had to say that on purpose. But no, seriously, tell me what happened. I need all the details. I know we've heard it from the other authors, but I need to hear it from the person who the tea was allegedly hurled at. Again, I'd like to remind you that this book came out in 2020, so Lady C, she was on it. She goes on to say, quote, Meghan and Harry were supposedly of the opinion that all negative stories about her were racist and snobbish in origin. But this seemed unlikely. You think? Damn, Lady C's on it, right? She knew from the jump. But yeah, it's everything we've been saying. If they don't like the story, they call it one of the S words they love to throw around. Again, I say, look at the picture here. Looks like she's a stickler for details of I can't even get through it without laughing. How things are pressed, right? Hello, boobs. I love being petty sometimes. When somebody deserves it like this, I love being petty. Okay, so then let's see, what else? Lady C goes on. One of my favorite lines is, quote, that girl, meaning Meghan, demands nothing less than total adoration. And if she doesn't get it, you're iced. That's what... Okay, so Lady C calls them royal cousins. So people that were close to the situation that would inform Lady C what was going on, she calls them royal cousins. So apparently a royal cousin told her that. I'm thinking at this moment in the car in the picture that Harry would rather be iced than to be right there. Okay, so then Lady C goes back into how the public in Britain were turning against her, especially as a result of her attitude. But people close to home wanted to know what happened where she could have dumped her father the way she did, especially when she herself had always said he had been an excellent father. So this is a question that Lady C keeps pondering throughout this chapter. Her theory is that Meghan had established common ground with Harry in the most effective way possible. She had hooked him by appealing to his emotions, by presenting herself as a person whose strength had been forged in the crucible of deprivation and pain, just like his. So she was trying to relate to him, right? And she thought that by doing this, it would hook him, which it did, so she couldn't take the chance of having her father around that might possibly tell the truth that they actually had a great relationship and that he did provide for her. And that would blow up all the stories that she had been telling Harry and anybody else who would listen to her. Lady C astutely refers back to she's had 2 blogs. She even wrote about it in the blogs that, quote, you can be anything you want to be. All you have to do is become it. So she has become this thing that people point out, quote, the only thing the 2 Meghans had in common was her body. So outside well, I wouldn't even say she looks the same anymore, but she might look the same-ish. But as close friends such as Nikki Pretty explained, she's not the same as before and after, not even kind of. And so she had to dump people like her father who represent her past and could blow up her future. How crazy is that? This is not me surprised. When I hear it, it just knocks me over the head of how disgusting this woman is. So Lady C points out the worst possible scenario for Meghan would have been that her father and fiance had gotten along so well that her dad could have given Harry enough information for him to realize that Maggie Poo was not telling the truth about things, that things weren't as tough as she was pretending that they were for her. So Lady C concludes the chapter by explaining Meghan won Harry by appealing to his genuinely humanitarian instincts. She did this by demonstrating her own humanitarian credentials, articulating philanthropic values which she knew he possessed, while making herself vulnerable in his eyes. So she endeared herself to him by appealing to his sympathies, by mirroring them, and by making him aware of how much she had, quote, suffered at the hands of a cruel world, while gaining his admiration for the brave and noble way which she coped. So again, I am not giving him a pass. He should have been smarter than this. His whole life should have prepared him to, I don't know, use a keen eye to look out for people like this. But nope, he's dopey. He's a dopey prince, and she hooked him, so I don't feel sorry for either of them. They're both awful people. Wow, I really had a lot of fun with this chapter. There's a lot of juicy stuff. I'm so excited to keep going with this book. So next episode, we will dive into chapter 8, and I'm here for it. Thank you so much for watching. I really appreciate it. I hope you have the best day, and thanks for being here. If you want to further support, again, check out my Patreon, patreon.com/Real Housewives Recaps, where you can become an executive producer. So I would like to thank my executive producers so much for all the support. So a huge thank you to you guys for supporting this show. I really appreciate it. So a huge thank you, Linda. Thank you to Melissa. Huge thank you, Paige. Thank you to Teresa. Thank you, Mary. Thank you, Amy. Thank you, Mr. K. Thank you, Kay. Thank you, Shauna. Thank you, Brenda. Thank you, Aaron and Frank. Thank you, Kristen. Thank you, Ann M. Thank you, Amanda. Thank you, Ann H. Thank you, Karen. Thank you, Corey. Thank you, Kay King. Thank you, Glynis. Thank you, Karen. Thank you, Dewey. Thank you, Patty. Thank you to Adair Becker. Thank you to Erica. Thank you, Amber. Thank you, Annette. Thank you, Barb G. Thank you, Diana LOL. Thank you, Andrea. Thank you, Allison B. Thank you, Jean. Thank you, Lori. Thank you, Pauline. And thank you, KT. Thank you, Jolene. Thank you, Stromboli. Thank you, Catherine. Thank you, Carla. And thank you, Lois, for being here. Really appreciate all of you. If you want to become an executive producer, check out patreon.com/Real Housewives Recaps.